Hi, I'm Steve Mera and welcome to Project Doorway Season 1 Episode 8. In this particular episode we are going to be looking at positive magnetic regions as well as the UFO manifestation process. Positive magnetic regions have also been referred to as electron diffusion regions since 2014 during specialized NASA experiments. Now, when we look at statistics all around the world in regarding UFO data, how many sightings are actually seen and reported? Now, we have to be conservative because not all countries take part in this information, delivering information or even documenting the amount of sightings that actually have. So not all of them do take part in this statistical analysis. However, those countries that do, we can actually come up with some data in regarding how many UFOs are seen around the world on an average day, 24 hours. And the numbers were quite remarkable. As an approximation, a UFO is seen, according to statistics, every 28 seconds. Now that's a remarkable amount of UFOs that are seen around the world on an everyday basis. The biggest question is how are they getting here? Where are they all coming from? Well, we do know now that utilising specialised pieces of equipment and satellite data, we can look at ionospheric disturbances in Earth's ionosphere. That's things are passing backwards and forwards through the ionosphere, leave a wake. A bit like leaving a wake in water when travelling on a boat. They leave ionospheric disturbances which are measurable, and statistically speaking, there are very, very little of them. In fact, NASA are actually confirming now that they don't believe the UFO phenomena actually constitutes extraterrestrial in origin. So, big question is, where are they all coming from if there are so many UFOs seen around the world on an everyday basis? What evidence is there to support that the hypothesis that UFOs are travelling the huge distances of space to get to here on planet Earth? The US government have been aware for many years that UFOs may very well be interdimensional, utilising quantum mechanics and maybe an Einstein-Rosen bridge. This is the theory that some type of wormhole technology might be actually being used. And it's interesting to note that Hal Puthoff listed in documentation some years ago now, not many, about 3 or 4 years ago, outlining the studies, specialised government studies, and one of them was in fact wormhole technology. There's an interesting point to make here that SETI astronomers, when asked about what activity is actually out there, have they noticed, they've actually stated on a remark, space is unusually quiet. And that's quite an interesting remark, because if we do have all these UFOs that are being seen round the clock on a 24-hour basis around planet Earth, which are being reported, and the numbers are quite high, we have to question where they're coming from. And we now know that we'd expect to see ionospheric disturbances with tremendous amount of traffic. There doesn't seem to be any form of superhighway passing backwards and forwards to Earth. So where are they all coming from? And these ionospheric disturbances, don't get me wrong, they do pick up some little bits now and again, as we've seen in UFO film footage from NASA during the 1990s, space shuttle missions filming unidentified flying objects. But they're not that common, and we now know that ionospheric disturbances can be easily picked up. Anything passing through Earth's ionosphere, they leave a wake, like a boat passing in water leaves a wake. They are detectable, but we're not seeing a huge amount of that. There's no superhighway of traffic going backwards and forwards here. So the big question is, where are all these UFOs coming from? Now, NASA kind of playing catch up. Researchers like myself and Barry and many others have pondered about the possibilities of Eisenbridge wormholes or portals or whatever these things are, and that the phenomena is utilising these. Now, NASA have also done their own studies in this, hidden portals in Earth's magnetic field. Now, what they're referring to here is in 2014 there was a specialised mission known as the MMS, which was maybe about 4 or 5 different small satellites, and they went out into near Earth orbit to look for what NASA referred to as portals. Their professional name is diffusion regions, electron diffusion regions. And they believed that these were large, some of them were sustainable, and that it links up between possibly Earth and then our sun, which is 93 million miles away. It has also been suggested, and I found no evidence to support this, but one of those satellites during that mission was actually sent through one of these sustainable portals, and only for a fraction of a second it reported back a signal which was very close to the surface of the sun at 93 million miles away. Just a little flash of information to say that maybe that they actually did send this through. Now, we don't know if they actually sent this through or not, this portal. It's only theoretical, and I've not found any evidence to support that. But people do claim, there has been a number of people who claim that yes, information was obtained showing that one of the MMS mission satellites was put through one of these X points, as they say, and appeared instantly, pretty much a signal for a fraction of a second, 93 million miles away near the surface of the sun. I don't know if that's true, of course. It sounds a little bit far-fetched, but who knows? But the study about these so-called portals is very real. The MMS mission looked into electron diffusion regions, which kind of fits well with the UAP manifestation theories, portals and wormhole technologies, energy fields around UAP and directed energy from UAP. And they went on to say that they had discovered these particular X points where these incidents happen, these portals take place, and they were studying them. Now, if I was a scientist, I would absolutely send one of those MMS mission satellites straight through that portal. I want to know where it's going and can we obtain a signal back. It stands to reason that its likelihood is that that's probably what they would have done. However, we don't know that as fact, but it is an interesting theory, and it is also interesting that a number of rumours suggested that they did actually do that and got a signal close to the sun 93 million miles away, when it obviously maybe have come out at the other end. Who really knows?
A favorite theme of science fiction is the portal, an extraordinary opening in space or time that connects travelers to distant realms. A good portal is a shortcut, a guide, a door into the unknown, if only they actually existed. It turns out that they do, sort of. And a NASA-funded researcher at the University of Iowa has figured out how to find them. We call them X points, or electron diffusion regions, explains plasma physicist Jack Scudder of the University of Iowa. They're places where the magnetic field of Earth connects to the magnetic field of the Sun, creating an uninterrupted path leading from our own planet to the Sun's atmosphere 93 million miles away. Observations by NASA's Themis spacecraft and Europe's cluster probes suggest that these magnetic portals open and close dozens of times each day.
So you can see here NASA working on the MMS satellite systems, which were utilized to gather data on portals. But the big question is that are X points, electron diffusion regions, not just happening around planet Earth, but actually happening on planet Earth or in the atmosphere of planet Earth? These X points have been described as sustainable, and some of them small, some of them very large, and they seem to be between Earth and the Sun. We used to think it might be some type of science fiction, but it is in fact science now. NASA confirmed portals are real.
Most portals are small and short-lived. Others are yawning, vast, and sustained. Energetic particles can flow through the openings, heating Earth's upper atmosphere, sparking geomagnetic storms, and igniting bright polar auroras. The sudden joining of magnetic fields can propel jets of charged particles from the X point, creating an electron diffusion region. To learn how to pinpoint these events, Scudder looked at data from a space probe that orbited Earth more than 10 years ago. In the late 1990s, NASA's polar spacecraft spent years in Earth's magnetosphere, explains Scudder, and it encountered many X points during its mission. It's a shortcut worthy of the best portals of fiction, only this time the portals are real. And with the new signposts, we know how to find them.
Also, when we talk about evidence stacking up, in the Smithsonian magazine in 2011, physicist Dr. Lisa Randall from the Harvard University said, quote, "I believe an extra dimension may exist close to our familiar reality, hidden except for a bizarre sapping of strength of gravity as we see it," close quote. Now, I've also taught in previous episodes of Project Doorway about these particular meters that we use, which detect gravitational anomalies, and they have been providing some very significant data in locations where UFOs, or UAP if you want to call them that now, have seemingly manifested. And the sudden the materialization of a UFO seemingly leaves some type of void, just as Einstein suggested that two things in the same space and time can't exist together. Something has to give. But even in a round hole where something might appear or manifest, it's not empty. There's gravitational waves in there, there's light waves, there's all sorts of things. If that has to disappear for something to manifest, and then the demanifestation process happens and disappears, it might seemingly leave a vacuum, a hole, which is only seemingly temporary, because we've had detectors, time displacement meters looking for displacements in time, latency effects, gravitational anomalies, and they have been detected in these locations, but you have to get there fast. It only happens to be only being able to record the data coming back from these within maybe 48, 72 hours, because the vacuum closes. So you have to be quick to get to those locations, especially if you've been, the idea thing is that you've been studying the location for a while, seen that it's a location where UAPs been manifesting of some sort, and that is where to conduct long-term tests in those specific areas. But it is interesting is that Lisa Randall is not the only person to have come forward and talked about another reality, literally right under our noses, and we wouldn't even know it's there. There are other scientists that also back her up now. So what are we consciously aware of in our reality? Now, we kind of live in a three-dimensional world as we kind of perceive it. The big question is, could there be other intelligences existing beyond our capabilities of awareness? And as you can see, some alternative realities might hold a key to the manifestation process of not just the UAP, the UFO phenomena, but also things associated to the paranormal. Because at the end of the day, these two things and the manifestation process, as we know through studies now and data and conclusive information, are one of the same regarding the process or the manifestation process. They seem to be exactly the same processes taking place, be it the manifestation of a UFO or the manifestation of something within the paranormal field. There's also been research to suggest that UFO activity has a close connection with magnetic or geomagnetic layers and lines. This is one of the most significant ones that go past through the United Kingdom. And photographs of these and video footage of these UFOs in those proximity to these layers or magnetic lines, you could say, are seemingly associated to the sighting of these objects, which are being filmed and photographed and reported widely. We can see here from this particular map, you know, there is 6 or 7 of major UFO incidents. Now, these 7 major UFO incidents that took place actually took place on very strong magnetic layers across the United Kingdom. The question is could this show some form of correlation between ancient sites and UFOs? Because this has been referred to as Earth energy grids. Ancient sites around the world have had a number of reported sightings in the vicinity, these UFOs, and they are reported quite often. It is interesting also to point out that these particular ancient sites are actually been purposely built and constructed in areas of geomagnetic anomalies, geomagnetic layers, lines, that sort of thing. It's as if our ancient ancestors knew about these energies and knew a good reason to build these structures upon them. But nevertheless, UFOs also seem to have some form of association to the magnetic anomalies that take place in those areas. As to how and who came up with the Earth grid is unknown, but it would seem that in ancient days our ancestors built constructions all around the world which seemingly linked up on this energy grid around the planet. It is absolutely fascinating. The question is that how could this been done? How did it get mapped? How did our ancient ancestors from all around the world seemingly communicate and have similar knowledge of this? It's a big mystery. Nonetheless though, UFOs are seen in proximity to ancient sites. In some cases, people who have witnessed these particular UFOs over ancient sites sometimes have reported seeing them. However, an interesting incident took place some years ago where a woman close by who residing in her home looked out the window at night and saw some strange object come down over an ancient site. She watched it and made notes about it. She was absolutely bewildered as to what this object could have been. What is interesting though is that the following morning when she actually got up, she didn't recall anything. She forgot everything. She couldn't remember anything about the incident. It was only when she went downstairs and looked at the notes that she made, suddenly it came all flooding back. Why and how could she have lost that memory? This is also an interesting point to make in regarding these types of anomalies. You know, sometimes in regarding the UFO phenomena, it can be perceived in such a way where it affects our memory that sometimes we don't recall the incident as we should do. And this is a perfect example. She totally forgot about that experience until she came down and read her own notes, and it all kind of opened up and the floodgates opened and it all came flying in, and then she remembered it all. It's very interesting how that incident, these and not just that but many others around the world, seemingly alter our ability to remember the incidents. Some of these ancient sites have been magnetically mapped. This is a series of standing stones in Europe, and what they've done is they used LiDAR and they used a magnetic detection equipment, very sensitive, to look at the overhead process of the construction site of these ancient stone circles. And what they found was that the magnetics did actually show up, and it showed a spiraling effect. Now, we are used to seeing this spiraling effect as energy spirals, both male and female, that means clockwise and anti-clockwise, being processed by our ancient ancestors and marked out on the ground. Now, the question is that are they identifying locations of great energy? This bottom right hand picture, which is quite a rare one, is of the Nazca lines, and it's a bit hard to see because it was taken by an overhead aircraft, somebody in an aircraft flying over. There is a female large spiral there. We see these all over the world, and not just on the ground but in drawings, ancient drawings, and it is said that these are supposed to represent energy formings, magnetic lays or energy lays, sometimes rotating in different formats, the male and the female. Now, if this is the actual case and that these do represent energy formings, our ancient ancestors were certainly aware of them. How? We do not know. Even looking at maps around the world, there are some very interesting correlations in regarding the top left hand corner is of the clusters, areas of missing, strange, and I mean profound, unusual missing incidents of people, like David Palladie's work, Missing 411. And this is a collection of the data showing the disappearances. We can see similar cluster areas of UFO activity to the right hand side on the top right, very similar in locations. Also bottom right is reported sightings of cryptid encounters, Bigfoot, dogmen, werewolves, call them what you will. And bottom left is areas of caverns, limestone caverns and caves throughout the United States there. If you look at all of them, there does seem to be some correlations between them. Now, is it just random coincidence, or is this something much more going on here? And these statistics showing similarities might be a key to what it might actually be going on here, that there is an association with all these things. But myself and Barry and a number of other researchers are not the first to have come up with data regarding Earth's magnetic anomalies in association to UFOs. Back in the day, Lieutenant Colonel Philip J. Corso stated, "I saw the bodies of dead aliens." He's talking about Roswell. However, the most important thing I find here is that he stated in 1982, the US government were monitoring UFO activity around 7 major magnetic anomalies. The US government kept a keen eye on these areas of positive magnetic anomalies in association to UFO activity. They were looking into it back then, a correlation, and looking at 7 major locations around the planet that they were monitoring because it was high magnetic anomalies, possibly positive in nature, and the manifestation of UFOs. So this has been going on for quite some time. One of the first early mapping systems carried out by satellites in Earth's orbit was known as linospheric EMA mapping systems. And this is before the more prominent and accurate satellite systems which were put into orbit, such as the EMAG and the GRAV satellites, which we use today. This was the first type of mapping system that looked at the magnetic anomalies around the planet. Now, positive magnetic anomalies were first identified as hotspots, or key areas of high magnetics indicated by the colour red. And these early linospheric EMA systems identified these particular areas of activity. Now, these locations, high in positive magnetics, were indicated in regarding this mapping system, how potent they actually were, how strong the positive magnetics were. Now, most of them are kind of featured in the northern part of the globe here, but there are also, as time went on, they started to realize when doing further tests and further mapping to the southern parts of the globe, that there are also anomalies there as well. But it is important to note that not only is the positive magnetic anomalies associated to the phenomena, seemingly, but also negative. These negative magnetic regions are also, things do happen in negative regions as well, but it's a kind of different type of phenomena slightly there that takes place. In more recent times, we tend to use the EMAGV2, which is filters applied to Google Earth, allowing us to see the satellite mapping of Earth's magnetic anomalies. There is also GRAV, KMV filters, which you can use, which will give gravitational information, gravitational anomalies, which also are monitored around planet Earth. Sometimes you get a correlation between the two. And this is what the more prominent KMZ filters produce. The KMZ filters, as your left-hand side here, Earth's gravitational anomalies, and Earth's magnetic anomalies on the right here, and you can see. And you can use these filters and correlate in regarding what type of phenomena has been reported in these key locations. There is a correlation between active locations and phenomena. Incidents of UFO activity, as well as paranormal occurrences, cryptid sightings, disappearances, and even suicide rates, believe it or not, are seemingly associated. If we take, for instance, Giant Rock. Now, Giant Rock is the second largest singular piece of rock or stone boulder in the world. It's actually cracked in two almost now, but it is interesting. Now, this particular location out in the desert of the Mojave, not too far from Joshua Tree in California, USA, was renowned for activity, paranormal or UFO type phenomena. And as we can see, it is in a very potent positive magnetic region of around about 250 to 270 nanotesla positive. And this photograph was taken from 1932, except for the UFOs in the background, of course. But nonetheless, though, this area didn't spring into interest because the amount of UFOs that were seen around that location. It all was triggered after an incident, one particular incident, where a few different varied types of entities, non-human intelligences we could say, were seen to walk out of the rock. And this is what sparked its interest. And of course, some researchers in history, which we will get to, even decided to go and live there and move there to interact with the phenomena. Now, don't get me wrong, UFOs are seen in that vicinity, but it was not initiated, the interest there, until the reported incidents of seeing non-human intelligences walking out of the rock. Strange lights in the sky, UFOs are seen regularly in these key locations. But what's interesting, that they seem to just manifest. Not often are they seen just coming in and out of locations, traversing, but they seem to manifest and demanifest, materialization, dematerialization process taking place in these key locations. And when you start to look into the most significant UFO encounters around the world, you start to find a correlation between the incidents and the magnetic positive regions. This particular one in Broadhaven, in the UFO incidents that took place there at St Bride's Bay, Pembrokeshire in Wales in 1977, a whole school class saw objects in the sky seemingly coming down towards the ground. Like many other incidents, like the Westall UFO incident that took place in Australia, or the Zimbabwe incident, or the Ariel School UFO encounter. These incidents do happen around the world. This is a very similar incident, but it did take place in a positive magnetic region purely by chance? I don't think so. After looking at over 2,000 of the most significant UFO incidents in the world, statistically speaking, we were up into 93 or 94% in positive magnetic regions. And I don't think that can be purely by chance. If we look at the Flatwoods Monster incident that took place in Braxton County in West Virginia in the US, September the 12th, 1952, again in a positive magnetic region of 250 to 260 nanotesla. Again, very unusual incident that took place. A Hopkinsville encounter in Kelly, Christian County, Kentucky, USA, August 21st, 1955. Profound incident that took place where a family were apparently besieged by these strange non-human intelligences and a strange craft had seemingly come to the ground. They opened fire on them. Apparently had no effect on them. But you can see here the location is in a very potent 260 to 270 positive nanoteslas. Even if we look at Skinwalker Ranch in Unitah Basin, it's in Utah, USA, March 1968 to current, really. Most of the incidents reported 68 to 94, but it is pretty much current. There's still things allegedly still taking place in these locations. And again, it's not just Skinwalker Ranch. It's the whole area around Skinwalker Ranch that's seemingly affected. And positive magnetic anomaly of, say, 240 to 260 nanotesla. Even accounts of the Mothman and UFO incidents that took place in Mason County, Point Pleasant, West Virginia in the US from November the 12th to December the 15th, 1966. You can see, again, took items of reports coming out from various different locations in positive magnetic regions. Of course, we can't get away from the Travis Walton incident, another very unusual encounter that took place in a national forest near Snowflake, Arizona in the US on November the 5th, 1975, where Travis was allegedly taken for 5 days in a very large location of positive magnetics. Even the A-70 alien abduction case. Now, this particular case is the only one the UK Ministry of Defence was actually interested, the only alien abduction case, where these two people had a very profound encounter back in 1992 on the A-70 whilst travelling down. And again, it's in another positive magnetic region. Lonnie Zamora UFO incident south of Sirocco, New Mexico, USA, April 24th, 1964, on the outskirts of a positive magnetic region. Aerial school UFO encounter, as I've just earlier mentioned, Zimbabwe, Africa, September the 16th, 1994, in another positive magnetic region. The list goes on. Malta, first UFO sightings, and of course various UFOs are photographed on a regular basis. And not only is the whole island of Gozo and Malta immersed within a positive magnetic anomaly, even Laughlin. Most people who travel to Laughlin might not realise that there's a very large positive magnetic region, and there are lots of UFOs that actually are reported there. Elbert County, which is Clearview Ranch in Colorado, where some very, very profound things took place, a bit like Skinwalker Ranch. Again, the same type of anomaly. You know, this is all over the world. Hasdalen Lights, the Hasdalen Valley, Norway, from 1934, it's going back some time, to current. These things are being seen, and they are in potent positive magnetic regions. So when it comes to these anomalies, it does seem that there's some form of connection between the phenomena and the geological things that are taking place there. In our next episode, we're going to be looking more into positive magnetic anomalies and the negative anomalies, and why we find in negative regions adverse effects on human psyche. Interesting. But we have come to the end of this episode, and I hope that you've actually enjoyed it. If you do have any questions, please pop them down below and we will get back to you. And please don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and we'll be back again soon with our next episode of Project Doorway. Thank you very much.